Hi students, I am Y. Ravindra Reddy, lecturer in Zoology. Today we start breathing and exchange of gases. Gases means respiratory gases, O2 and CO2. Breathing and exchange of gases. This chapter is Unit 1B in second year Zoology. Breathing and exchange of gases. Respiratory system. Respiratory system. Your calorie burner. Calorie burner and energy provider. So our respiratory system is calorie burner and energy provider. Why the respiratory system, our calorie burner and energy provider? So now I explain the introduction of breathing and exchange of gases. Respiratory system or respiration is a catabolic process. Catabolic process. So the metabolism has two processes, catabolic process and anabolic processes. So the respiration is the example of catabolic processes. In this process, O2 is received from the surroundings and utilized for oxidation of foods. In these reactions, energy is released and forms the CO2 and H2O as end products. So in the respiration, O2 is received from our surroundings and utilized this CO2 for oxidation reactions of the food. In this process, energy is released in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and also forms CO2 and H2O as end product. So in this process, calories are burned. Here calories means food, glucose, fatty acids, etc. are burned in the respiration. In this process, energy, CO2 and water are released. Here CO2 and H2O are the end products. So the constant supply of energy is needed to body cells for their various metabolic activities. Various metabolic or different type of metabolic activities are occurs in our body. Different activities are maintained in the cells or in our body organs. The metabolic activities requires energy. So the constant supply of energy is needed to body cells for their various metabolic activities. Energy is produced by the oxidation of micromolecules of digested food such as glucose, fatty acids, amino acids, etc. So, so energy is released from cells by the oxidation of micromolecules of digested food. The food is digested in our alimentary canal. So, end products of digested food is glucose, fatty acids, amino acids. So, these these are transported to the body cells through the circulatory system. So the end products of food such as glucose, amino acids, fatty acids are absorbed into blood from alimentary canal. Now the blood carries these end products to different body cells. So blood carries the end products of food from alimentary canal to cells. So, end products of food are transported to the body cells through the circulatory system. Here, circulatory system is blood circulatory system. O2 is utilized by organisms to break down stored food materials such as glucose, fatty acids, etc. In this process, CO2 is released. The CO2 is harmful to organisms. So, the CO2 dissolve in the water to form bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. So the O2 is utilized by organisms to break down stored food materials such as glucoses, fatty acids, etc. So the glucoses and fatty acids are breakdown in the cells in the presence of oxygen. In this process, energy is released. In this process, CO2 is released from cells. So the CO2 is released from the cells in the oxidative reactions. Here, CO2 is very harmful to our body. It causes many problems. First, the CO2 dissolve in the water to form bicarbonates and hydrogen ions. Here, the bicarbonates ions lowers the pH of blood, threatening homeostasis. So, the bicarbonate ions lowers the pH of blood. So, CO2 causes many problems. So it is therefore evident that O2 has to be continuously provided to the body cells, and the CO2 produced by the cells has to be sent. So the CO2 continuously utilized by the cells. In this process, the cells release the CO2. This CO2 does not store in our body. It is released from our body. So CO2 is sent from our body. The respiration is a vital feature of life. Respiration is a vital feature. Vital means very important. So respiration is a important feature of life. Without respiration, the organism does not survive. So it is vital feature. The process of exchange of O2 from the medium. Here medium means air or water. So the process of exchange of O2 from the medium with CO2 produced by the cells at the same time is called breathing. So the process of exchange of O2 from the medium with CO2 produced by the cells at the same time is called breathing. So in the respiration, air is inhaled into the lungs and exhaled out of the lungs. This process is called breathing. So inhalation of air into lungs and exhalation of air from lungs to outside is called breathing. Receiving of O2 into lungs and sending CO2 from lungs to outside is called pulmonary ventilation. So receiving of O2 into lungs from atmosphere and sending out the CO2 from lungs to outside is called pulmonary ventilation. Here pulmonary means lungs. Entering of O2 into lungs, sending the CO2 from lungs to outside is called pulmonary ventilation. Exchange of O2 and CO2 between alveoli of lungs and blood vessels is called external respiration. External respiration means exchange of O2 and CO2. Exchange of O2 and CO2 between alveoli of lungs. Alveoli of lungs and blood. Alveoli of lungs and blood is called external respiration. External respiration. Next, exchange of O2 and CO2 between blood vessels and tissues is called internal respiration. So the exchange of O2 and CO2 between blood and body tissues is called internal respiration. Next, oxidation of food or the chemical breakdown of nutrients inside the cells is called cellular respiration or internal respiration. So oxidation of food or the chemical breakdown of nutrients in the or inside the cells is called cellular respiration or internal respiration. Next, in the gill breathing animals, the direction of flow of blood in the gills and the direction of flow of water are in counter current flow mechanism. It is for efficient oxygenation of blood. So gill breathing organisms. Example, fish. So this is fish. So these are gills. Gills are respiratory organs in the fishes. So for example, this is gill. Here in the gill breathing animals, the direction of flow of blood in the gills. For example, this is flow of blood. Flow of blood. This direction is flow of water. So the direction of flow of blood in the gills and the direction of flow of water are in counter current flow mechanism. Here counter current means opposite direction. This direction is flow of water, this direction is flow of blood. So this is gill. It is for efficient oxygenation of blood. So generally gases are diffused from high concentrate to low concentrate. Here in the gills, water and blood both are flow through the gills in opposite direction. For example, water flows in this direction, blood flows in this direction, both are opposite direction. Here water contains O2. So the concentration of O2 is high in the water than blood. So the oxygen from the water diffuse into blood. Now this oxygen is carried out from the gills through blood. So the blood carries this oxygen away from the gills. Next, deoxygenated blood enter into gills. Now, a large amount of oxygen is diffused again into the water. Now, this blood is oxidized with oxygen. So, the oxidated blood carry flows away from the gills. So, large amount of oxygen is diffused in the blood. So, this is the counter current is for efficient oxygenation of blood. Next, the birds develops air sacs and parabronchi, their respiratory system. We already discussed air sacs in the birds in first year syllabus. So birds develops 9 air sacs. So the lungs of the birds associates with 9 air sacs. So the birds develops air sacs and parabronchi. These are useful to continuous exchange of gases even during expiration. Generally, in the expiration means exhalation of air from lungs to outside is called expiration. So, in the expiration, the air sending out from the lungs. In this situation, the air sacs supplies the oxygen to body organ. So, the air sacs are useful to continuous exchange of gases even during expiration. Next, insects and some other arthropods possess trachea and tracheoles which carry O2 directly to each cell of the body. While here in the insects, the blood does not transport the oxygen to body organs. Why? Due to absence of respiratory pigment or hemoglobin. So hemoglobin or respiratory pigment is absent in the blood of insects. So the blood of insect does not carries oxygen to body organs. So the insects develops tube-like structures called trachea and tracheoles. The trachea and tracheoles are the respiratory organs of insects which carries oxygen directly to body organs. So insects develops trachea and tracheoles. The rib cage and the diaphragm help mammals breathing in air more efficiently. So the mammals develops rib cage. What is rib cage? Rib cage is formed by sternum, ribs, and vertebral column or backbone. Ventral side of the thorax possesses a rod-like short bone called sternum. Dorsal side of the thorax possesses vertebral column or backbone. Right and left sides of the thorax possess ribs. So the ventral side of the ribs attached to sternum and dorsal side connects with the backbone to form a cage called rib cage. So, so mammals develops or forms rib cage and the diaphragm. What is diaphragm? Diaphragm is a muscular layer. It is situated in the body cavity between thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. So the diaphragm separates the thoracic and abdominal cavity. So the rib cage and diaphragm helps in breathing or respiration in the mammals. Hemostasis of O2 and CO2 are under the control of the respiratory center. Hemostasis of O2 and CO2. So the respiration is under the control of the respiratory center. Inhalation and exhalation are under the control of medulla oblongata. Inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation means taking of air. Exhalation means sending of air from the body to outside. So the inhalation and exhalation both are under the control of the medulla oblongata. What is medulla oblongata? Medulla oblongata is a part of brain. Brain divides into three parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Hindbrain contains medulla oblongata. So the medulla oblongata regulates the inhalation and exhalation of the respiration. There is a pneumotaxic center in the pans and it controls the rate and depth of breathing. So our brain possesses pneumotaxic center. It is located pans. Pans is a part of brain. Pans veroli. Pans veroli is a part of brain. It controls the rate, respiratory rate and depth of breathing. Man cannot hold his breath for long time. The man cannot hold his breath for long. He is forced to breathe in. But the elephant seal, a mammal, can remain underwater for up to 2 hours. So the man cannot hold his breath for a long time. But the elephant seal is a mammal. It remain underwater for up to 2 hours without oxygen. Why? The muscles of the elephant seal, like in some other aquatic mammals, contains myoglobin or muscle hemoglobin, which has more affinity for oxygen. The elephant seal, muscles of the elephant seal possess myoglobin or muscle hemoglobin. It has more affinity for O2. So, large amount of oxygen is held by myoglobin. Blood contains hemoglobin, but muscles contains myoglobin. Myoglobin has more affinity for O2. So, myoglobin store large amount of oxygen. During the insufficient supply of oxygen, the myoglobin release its oxygen